Hey, Falcons and NFL fans, welcome to a special Super Bowl edition of NFL's Jocks and Pigskins with Tom Pollen, Chris Smitherman producing behind the scenes. I'm Dave Holcomb, also behind the scenes today, doing some housework in the office. Everything is moved out of there, so I am able to join the show from our basement, but not the most appealing background. And I got dogs walking around and cats walking around. So I'm here, but won't see my face. Might have to step out to speak to a worker or two during the show. We'll see. But I am here and I'm really excited because we got a great Super Bowl matchup. And we're going to talk a lot about the Falcons and how close they are to joining these teams as Super Bowl contenders. The 49ers and Chiefs are kind of one of the both in their conference, the standard, I guess you could say, the last 4 or 5 years, and the Falcons are trying to get to that level. And we're going to talk today about how close they are to that. We're going to preview the game, of course, have some prize picks for you, and talk about the NFL honors that happened Thursday. We have reactions from that to some of the award winners, some of the snubs we think were should have won, perhaps, instead of the guys that actually did win. And as always, Tom is our historian of the show. He'll give us a little down on the latest Hall of Fame class.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't say that I was disappointed about the Hall of Fame class. I think everybody who got selected earned Hall of Fame honors. I'm surprised at a couple of snubs that I think a couple of the selections probably could have come in later years. I think a couple of guys that's very surprising did not go in this session. So, yeah, I do want to discuss that just a little bit. I'm not going to go off on it too much, but yeah, we got a full show. I mean, there's plenty to do. So,
yeah, and I know these players weren't primarily Falcons, but two Falcons players that spent time with the Atlanta Falcons going into the Hall of Fame. So I think that's noteworthy to discuss in a little bit as well. Dwight Freeney
right.
and Devin Hester, of course. Devin Hester's should and always be thought of as a Chicago Bear, but also played for the Falcons, set the kickoff return touchdown record.
Yes, he did.
As an Atlanta Falcon. So
he certainly did. So, yeah, there's a connection there. Definitely.
Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app, and it's a great time to do that if you haven't already. When you do, use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. So some free money for your account there to get started. And we'll have some picks for you to use in the last game of the season, which should be a good matchup. I am not thinking it's going to be super close, actually, to be honest, Tom, but a lot of people are anticipating a really great game. And I think people will be surprised if it's not a great game. I'm definitely in the minority by thinking that we might see Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs run away with this thing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising. That's surprising to me because I do think we're in for a close game. I think we have two not necessarily evenly matched offenses because I think the 49ers are bringing a better offense into this game. Surprisingly, considering Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback of the Chiefs, but I think the 49ers bring more overall weapons to this game. I think both teams are very equal defensively, and that's going to be whichever team can put the other, their opponent's defense off balance is going to have the advantage. It's going to be rough for both these offenses to move.
My thing is, you're looking at the 49ers and your power rankings and your stats from the entire season, and I'm not putting down those stats. They're very useful, but maybe not as useful when you're looking at a one game scenario. And if you look at recently, And I know you always preach don't bet with recency bias, but I mean we see it every year where the teams that win the Super Bowl are teams that peak at the end of the season. 49ers are not peaking. I think
No, they're not.
It's very clear that they are not peaking. They've gotten by with I don't want to say they've gotten by, but I think people expect more from them because of their defense from last season. They were number one in everything last season. And you can tell me what they're in number one in now, this year as well. But I don't think they're I think they're 14th in rushing yards allowed per attempt, were 14th this year. So you can run the ball against them. And we saw that in the division matchup against Green Bay, and Detroit did it a little bit.
Yeah, Detroit didn't do enough of it.
No, not in the second half. Sure. But they still gave up 24 points plus points in their 2 playoff games. I don't think that this is not an elite defense going into this matchup. It's elite on paper, and if they play up to their potential, yeah, they can hold down the weapons that the Chiefs have, but they're not playing elite right now.
No, they're not, and Kansas City is.
Yeah.
Kansas City is peaking right now. This is the best Kansas City has played all year, is in the playoffs, in the postseason.
Right. I kind of see this similar to when the Chiefs played the Buccaneers a couple years ago in the Super Bowl. We had a lot of hype, and that, of course, it was mostly Brady versus Mahomes. But and then the game was a real big letdown because we had this Buccaneers defense that just steamrolled Patrick Mahomes, and there were injuries involved with that. Had no healthy offensive linemen left by then, but I don't know. I'm not going to say it's going to be that lopsided of a Super Bowl, but I think the Chiefs are going to win by at least 10.
Well, you had a 49ers team, a Buccaneers team that took away everything that the Chiefs like to do. They were incredibly well prepared for everything the Chiefs wanted to do. Plus, you had Tyreek Hill, but he had a touchdown pass bounce off his helmet early in the game, which I think added a little more frustration to the Chiefs' efforts and maybe affected the game a lot more than you thought at that time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, you can't overlook the fact that this is a championship team. This team does what it takes to win, and that you cannot look back and say, you can't count the Chiefs out of anything. And I would never count the Chiefs out of this game.
I don't think they're getting enough respect as the defending Super Bowl champs. What do you think about that?
I'm not so sure about that, because I think the Chiefs have gained respect as they've proceeded through these playoffs.
They're still not favored in this game, though, right?
What's that?
Still not favored in this game.
No, they're not favored. But again, we talked about that last week.
Yeah,
now
we did.
The point spread did drop to 1, and for the 49ers favored, and now I think it's at 1.5. So the point spread has dropped a little bit. But again, we have a lot of sports books looking at their overall payout. And I'm not just talking overall payout for the Super Bowl. I'm talking about overall payout for the season, because the 49ers came into this season heavily favored and a lot of money placed on them. And Vegas, the sports books don't win based off of bets. They can get beaten bad if a favorite comes in big. But they try to even out the bets on either side, because they make money off of each bet. And that's kind of where they want to be. And that's why Kansas City is never going to be favored in this game, because the sports books are looking at that, at the commitment made to the 49ers before the season and during the season as people started betting on them to win the Super Bowl. So, they're trying to offset some of that money too.
Right. And we talked all about that last week. So you think other than the betting line, the Chiefs are getting the attention, the hype of a defending champion
I
from the
think they
media?
are. I think right now they are, yes. There's a lot of public money is coming in on the Chiefs. Now, surprisingly, I read in a couple of places where it's a pros versus Joes, basically your pro bettors versus your public. Pros versus Joes, where the pros are actually betting the favorite, 49ers. A lot of heavy, sharp money is coming in on the 49ers. And normally it's the public that comes in heavily on the favorites. But the public is coming in heavily on Kansas City this year. And it seems like the pros are coming in on San Francisco. So that's an interesting storyline that I've been watching.
How about prize picks from this game? I've got the prize picks is giving you Patrick Mahomes
Yes.
for free. He's got
wow. Isn't that amazing that they really that surprised me when I saw that.
Yeah, I was surprised about it too. Half a passing yard for Patrick Mahomes is what he needs to go over for you to get that one correct. So that's
as
a
long as
slam
he
dunk.
doesn't pull an Aaron Rodgers, you're fine.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If he survives the coin toss, he'll be good.
Yes.
And then, I'm going to go with Travis Kelce. I've got two other picks for you, Tom. Travis Kelce above 73.5 receiving yards. Going to go over that. A lot of attention on Kelce and the Taylor Swift story. It'll be discussed a lot during the broadcast, I'm sure, with CBS anticipating all of the casual viewers watching the Super Bowl, of course, and the interest in Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. So, but I think Kelce's going to be motivated to play in this game. And
and he's a major Patrick Mahomes target.
Sure. Right.
So of course, 73.5, I think, is almost a gimme.
Yeah.
Because that was on my list too.
Yeah.
So I like that one. Yeah, it's funny because one of the offbeat prop bets, and you always get these offbeat prop bets for the Super Bowl, as far as, national anthem length, who's going to win the coin toss. Well, there is a prop bet on how often will the camera go to Taylor Swift in the fan box, and it's over under 4.5.
4.5. Whoa, it's going to be good, way over that, right?
I would think so. But that is the number that they are putting on Taylor Swift views. So
I think it might be over that in the first quarter.
Yeah, it might be. Well, every time Travis Kelce does something good, you're going to see Taylor Swift, and he's going to do plenty of good things.
Right, exactly. I mean, you saw him meet up the Ravens defense in the first half of the championship game. I think he's going to do something similar and get targeted a lot. So that's why I got him over. And I would go over on that Taylor Swift prop bet as well. My other pick.
Another prop bet for the game is, will you see, what's his brother, Jason?
Jason Kelce.
Jason Kelce. Will you see Jason Kelce shirtless?
Probably.
So, that's two game props you might want to look at, going into the Super Bowl.
My other prize pick choice, again, today's show brought to you by Prize Picks, giving you our choices for giving you some free money. Hopefully you can get free money with our promo code ASU, and then hopefully you can double your money or whatever, win some additional money with our choices, or let us know which choices you're going to make in our comments section, and we can give you a shout out here during the live show. I'm going a little bit off the board, Tom, and going with a combo kicker prop. Harrison Butker plus Jake Moody, half a field goal made from 48 yards or more.
I
I know
like that.
it's very specific,
Yeah,
but
but you look at that and you look at the end of the half type scenario, and you might see that.
yeah, and if it was like Moody and Michael Badgley as my kickers, those were the kickers in the NFC Championship game, I would not be as confident in this because I don't think those kickers are elite. Moody has been okay this season as a rookie, but Harrison Butker is very solid kicker. Has a strong leg, does very well from deep.
Yeah,
So
one of the
yeah,
best in the game.
I can see him making a 50-yarder at any point in this game, particularly as you said at the end of a half. So
Yeah.
I like that choice, and that's my third selection if you're counting Patrick Mahomes to give me.
Well, I got a couple other for you. For one thing, rushing yards, Purdy over 12 and a half rushing yards, because I think he's going to be running out of the pocket a couple of times. Remember, Chiefs have a strong pass rush.
Yeah.
And I think Purdy's going to pull the ball down a couple of times, and it's 12 and a half attempts. I'm sorry. Or is it 12 and a half rushing yards? I think it's 12 and a half rushing yards. Anyway, I have one that's really off the wall that I looked at because Prize Picks has a little area where, like a specialty area, and it's receptions and 3-pointers made. It's over under 11 and a half. Travis Kelce receptions and Steph Curry 3-pointers made. So, and 11 and a half is the number. And I would say go over on that.
That is an interesting combo.
Yeah. So I like that combo. I like how that goes.
Well, we got some comments rolling in already. Keep them flowing. We would love to hear what Prize Pick selections you're going to have for this Super Bowl matchup. Yep. We have some questions referring to some other topics that we'll get to those comments in a little bit. Todd does say in his breakdown of the game, 49ers are the better team on paper, but Patrick Mahomes makes up for that. And in the fourth, he puts them over the top. Purdy's going to throw a pick, is what he says, against the Spagnuolo defense.
Very possible. That Spagnuolo defense is playing incredibly well, especially in the playoffs. Because they shut down, Baltimore wasn't running the ball in the first place, but they completely shut down a Baltimore offense that was moving. And yeah, I could see Purdy, if he's pressured, if the Chiefs are able to get pressure with Jones up the middle and Karlaftis off the edge, really make a difference in this game and force Purdy into making a bad throw. So I don't think that's a bad one. And I do agree with Todd, 49ers on paper, better team. But a lot of people say that you can't count Patrick out. And I would say I agree with that quite a bit. And let me give you a couple of numbers here that I dug up doing research. The Chiefs' advantages, they are very effective as underdogs. They're 10-1 against the spread as an underdog, and 9-3 straight up as underdogs. So, for one time, Mahomes is not injured going into this Super Bowl. Mahomes is fully healthy. All right, no high ankle sprain, no injured toe, no nothing. He is healthy now. And I think that's a big key. So, and he's won his road underdog twice this season.
Yeah.
In the playoffs. And they've come from behind. And he's come from behind in 2 Super Bowls. The 2 Super Bowls that Chiefs have won.
Right.
Mahomes has brought his team back from 10 points down and won the game. So, and one other point is the Chiefs are very confident. Chiefs are comfortable in Allegiant Stadium. They play there every year.
Right.
They play the Raiders there every season. They know how Allegiant Stadium plays. And I think that's an important thing that nobody's looking at. is this isn't quite the neutral site for the Chiefs as it is for the 49ers.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Final score prediction. What do you got?
Oh, God, you're going to kill me here. I mean, David.
All right, I'll give you a couple seconds to think of one.
I was about to say we haven't even analyzed the game yet.
Well, we got other topics to get to.
I know. Oh, man. All right, final score. I am, again, taking the Chiefs. I think it's a close game. I think the Chiefs put up 30. Actually, I think the Chiefs put up 27. And 27-23, Chiefs win.
Okay. All right.
So there we go.
I got 31-14, Kansas City.
All right. So you think it's going to be a much more bigger blowout for Kansas City?
Yeah, I'm going out on a limb that I really don't need to go out on, because if I'm right, they say in the media, don't predict blowouts, because if you're right, nobody remembers, nobody cares, and more than likely you're going to be wrong, because if it's a close game, you're wrong. If the other team wins, you're really wrong. So, but I'm breaking that bit of advice that you're supposed to follow as a media person, and I just think the Chiefs are going to win pretty big.
Okay, I think it's a closer game. You look at what the 49ers have. They had to come from behind to beat the Packers and the Lions.
Yeah.
But they still have George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey as receivers. They have McCaffrey fully healthy to run the ball against the Chiefs defense that's 24th in yards per attempt allowed. So McCaffrey's going to see some success in this game. And that's how I think it's closer. I still think Patrick Mahomes does more things on the field than any other quarterback in the league. And my philosophy has always been, whether you're betting in the regular season or betting in the postseason, the better quarterback, if all other things being equal, you take the better quarterback. And the better quarterback is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, for sure. That's not a debate at all. So, yeah, we're both on Kansas City. We'll see if the 49ers are able to keep it close as you predict. So, Todd has another comment about the elephant in the room, as he calls it, with the NFL wanting Swiftie fans.
Todd, I'm going to go back to I've been laughing at all these conspiracies that have been coming forward during the season and postseason. And going back to a quote by Mark Twain, way back, said, 2 people can keep a secret if one of them is dead. In other words, the more people who have to be in on the conspiracy, the more likely that conspiracy is going to be exposed. There isn't a conspiracy. All right. It's just not out there. No. And believe me, if there was an instruction to the refs to be a little bit more lenient to Kansas City, or it would come out. Somebody getting drunk at the bar and lets it slide, and you're always going to find out if there's a conspiracy, because nobody can keep a secret. So, and the sports books and the NFL both have a commitment to making sure these games are as clean as possible. Because if you ever start doubting, if you ever get to a point where you doubt that a game is legitimately played, you are not going to have any betting action. You're not going to have any viewership. You might as well be pro wrestling, the WWE. Because if people think that games are not on the up and up. So don't give me the conspiracy theory. I'm sorry, it's not the elephant in the room. I'm not going there. Again, people do not keep secrets. The more people have to be in on the secret makes it less likely that a conspiracy can be kept, that something like that can be pulled off. And the fact that it is in the NFL's best interest, it's in the sportsbook's best interest to make sure that each game is looked at as legitimately as possible. So I'm not going there.
Did you think there were any conspiracies at the NFL honors?
No, but there might have been some questionable decisions at the NFL honors, and I know you want to get to that.
Yeah, no, I just saw that as a transition, and I'm joking. I don't think there was any like any rigging of voting at NFL honors, but I didn't realize going into Thursday night we were going to have the Cleveland Browns show, being from Pittsburgh, a Steelers fan, of course, I'm not a huge fan of the Cleveland Browns.
No.
And Myles Garrett, of course, beating out TJ Watt was not what I wanted to see. I felt like TJ was the best choice for Defensive Player of the Year. I think it's pretty laughable, I guess, is the best word I can come up with, that you look at the stats and what blows my mind, I just keep thinking of the Minka Parsons going on TV and advocating for Myles Garrett because of the stats, is what he said. And then you look at the stats and TJ Watt has more of everything than Myles Garrett. More tackles for loss, more sacks, more tackles, more forced fumbles, an interception. He scored a touchdown. Myles Garrett didn't score a touchdown. Myles Garrett had 1 sack in his final 6 games. One Defensive Player of the Year. But the stats where he did edge TJ Watt are analytics numbers like pass win rate. Never heard so much reference to pass win rate as I did this past week. And I guess double team rate was another one that he edged TJ Watt in.
Well, I get sick of some of these advanced analytics that people are trying to force into the game. It's just ridiculous. How many times do you bring down the quarterback? How many times do you put the other team behind the chains because you sacked their quarterback? That's a big difference. Pass win rate, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I can go on a long rant about Pro Football Focus, and I think it's a very useful tool. Don't get me wrong. I use Pro Football Focus in my writing all the time. Yeah. But if you look at Pro Football Focus, Myles Garrett was the top rated defender in the entire league this year with a 93.6 grade. Nobody knows how they came to that grade, which I think is an issue, that we don't know how it's calculated, but okay. That's fine. You can, Garrett is one of the best defenders is what that tells me. It doesn't necessarily say he was definitely the best, because if you look at some of the other grades, they're, 92.3, 92.6. And it's like, well, what's the difference between a 0.3 in their grade system? And TJ Watt, I believe, was 5th or 6th among all defenders with 91.6. So there was less than a 2-point difference, a few players in between Garrett and Watt. But that's not how I would use Pro Football Focus in my writing. I look at the overall grade and say, okay, he's elite. This is an elite grade that TJ Watt got. This is an elite grade that Myles Garrett got. Yes. But if you're going to compare the two in that grade, I mean, it's a wash. It's the same to me.
Right.
Pro Football Focus only works to me, again, if you're comparing a player that has an elite grade to a player that has a average, below average, or just a little above average grade. And it really works for position groups that don't have stats. We have lots of stats to measure pass rushers. I think Pro Football Focus is most effective when you're measuring like offensive linemen, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you. My other issue with Pro Football Focus is they concentrate more on the player than on the team. They focus more on players than teams. So,
yeah.
I see Todd as a conspiracy theorist, and I'm sorry, Todd. And he says that if the money's right, and Todd, this is $1 billion industry, the money is never going to be right to jeopardize the integrity of the game. So, and that's as far as I'm going to take it. I'm sorry, Todd. That's where we're going to go. That's where I end it. So, all right, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead and keep going. I'm sorry about that.
No problem. So I do. Initially, I was pretty upset, or I thought TJ Watt was definitely robbed. I still feel like he was the better choice, but I think Myles Garrett was deserving of the honor. Okay. I just, again, TJ had 19 sacks. Myles Garrett just 1 sack in his final six games and finished with 14. The Atlanta, if Garrett had 19 sacks as well, or 18 sacks, then you go to the analytics as like a tiebreaker. But to me, 19 sacks versus 14 sacks, and then the edges that he had in every other category made TJ Watt the better choice. And it's unfortunate for Watt, being a Steeler fan, of course, I feel this way, that he's finished second for Defensive Player of the Year twice. Has also won it. But I mean, he's very close to joining an exclusive group of players that have won the award more than once, and I mean, he was very close to winning it 3 times. So it's kind of a shame that he just missed out on that. And I guess the last thing I want to say about it is, like, the first time he finished second, Aaron Donald won it. And you could probably argue that TJ Watt deserved it more than Aaron Donald, but Aaron Donald was Aaron Donald. Like, Aaron Donald was just one of the greatest defensive players ever. And he was in this era, this reign of being just so dominant. They kind of just gave it to him because he's Aaron Donald.
He's Aaron Donald. Yes.
And I think everybody kind of felt like TJ's time would come, that he would get it eventually. And he did get it. But now, like, TJ Watt should be getting that respect that Aaron Donald got, right? That, like, we're giving it to TJ Watt because he's TJ Watt, and he had all the superior sacks and statistical numbers over Garrett, but this voting this year went the opposite way. Like, oh, we want to give it to somebody new. We want to give it to somebody else. It's close enough where we can give it to Garrett and not have it be a total sham, I guess
and that's the problem you have with these awards in any sport, is sometimes, a guy will win it because, hey, he's thought of as one of the dominant players at his position, one of the greatest of all times. And how can he not be the most valuable player?
Right.
And then other times it's like, well, I mean, we focus on this player too much. We got to give it to somebody else.
Right.
So, that is a problem with these awards.
Yeah. So I just think that Watt has been robbed for both reasons, and that's definitely got to irk him. And you know what? It could benefit the Steelers because it looks like he's already in the weight room trying to get better, TJ Watt. So
you want to see TJ Watt get better,
right? Exactly. So I think he's going to come out next year with a vengeance, and he wants to win that. It's very clear that this is important to him. And he wants to win Defensive Player of the Year again. So I expect if he's healthy again next season, TJ Watt is going to have a very big 2024. But actually, I had a bigger issue, Tom, with 2 of the other choices at NFL honors, and both were also Cleveland Browns. I after thinking about it, I thought Garrett was a deserving winner. but Kevin Stefanski as coach of the year and Joe Flacco as comeback player of the year. I'm sorry. DeMar Hamlin above and beyond. Like, how is DeMar Hamlin not a unanimous choice for comeback player of the year after what he went through last year on the field, almost losing his life?
Well,
and
some
coming
say
back,
he actually died on the field.
Right. And coming back and playing football again. I mean, even Joe Flacco multiple times before and after the NFL honors has said DeMar Hamlin should have won this award.
Yeah, and I agree. And I was shocked at that. I wasn't as shocked necessarily because of that. I'm shocked that 8 voters left DeMar Hamlin off their votes. Did not even get a third place vote. He was completely off 8 voters' cards, or else he would have won the award. That's the thing I find a problem with. I really have a big problem with. How can you leave him off? How can you not even give him a second or third place vote?
Right.
That's just insane.
Yeah.
He had more first place votes than Flacco, but he was left off of 8 ballots.
Which is another thing we could discuss with the voting process. Why don't you just pick a winner? Why do we have these, like, pick a first place, pick a second place, pick a third place, and then because Flacco got more second and third place choices than Hamlin, he wins the award? It just, there were more people voted Hamlin first than Flacco, and he didn't win.
Right. Exactly. Yes, I have a problem with that. And, Hamlin did come back and play. He played. He was on the field the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Maybe not as effectively as he did last year, but he was on the field. He was a part of Buffalo's defense.
Yeah. And
he wasn't as splashy as Flacco was in his comeback, but
right. But Flacco also only played half a season.
Yes,
and it was a small sample, and I think I shouldn't say any, but we see a lot of quarterbacks that are career backups, and now Flacco's not a career backup. Flacco won Super Bowl MVP, but guys that are not elite quarterbacks play at an elite level for a short period of time, right? At quarterback. And then, but eventually it catches up to them. And we saw that get caught up with Joe Flacco in the playoffs.
Yes.
So, and I know playoffs shouldn't impact awards, but, and I'm not saying Joe Flacco lost the comeback player of the year or should have lost it because of that playoff performance. He shouldn't have won it anyway. But I do think that the fact that he only played half a season and just went on, a 2-month tear, that was another issue I had with him winning it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, I have no argument. You're not gonna find an argument from me on that, Dave.
Yeah, and as far as Stefanski goes, the guy hasn't won an AFC North title, and he has 2 Coach of the Year awards. Has won it twice, so.
DeMeco Ryans should have won that award.
Yeah.
There is no doubt in my mind DeMeco Ryans did the most, did the best coaching job of the year, took a team that was in shambles, not just in player personnel, but emotionally. That team was in bad shape when DeMeco Ryans took that over. And look at what they did this year. Just amazing. How he does not win Coach of the Year just astounds me.
And how ironic is it that he loses to the coach that he trounced in the playoffs?
Yes.
Just
right.
Very, very ironic there. And I thought Dan Campbell also was a good choice.
So do I. I thought Campbell took a team. When he took over that team, perennial losers. And, it used to be an adjective, how the Lions lioned that game again. And as I said before the playoffs on Twitter, I had a guy who said I cannot see the Lions winning a postseason game. And I told it, went back at him. I said, look, you cannot judge this year's Lions team by what they've done in the past. This is not that same Lions team. And they did win.
Right.
And
yeah.
That's something, Dan Campbell has built a winner. Now, I think he read too many of his press clippings about how tough he was against the San Francisco 49ers because he made some, those fourth down decisions were awful. But, he's got a team that believes in themselves.
Yeah.
And believes they can win at any time, that they can make any play at any time to win a game. And that's all you need.
And I think the last point I want to make about the NFL honors and coach of the year, I know I can't just say this blanket statement. I want to say the winner, the coach that wins coach of the year should coach a team that has no other winners at NFL honors. And I know that can't always be the case. Like, D'Amico Ryans had 2 Rookie of the Year winners. Yeah. So, but that to me is a little different because he's responsible for developing the rookies on his team. So, like, he coached them to winning those awards. But, like, if you want to hype the Browns as, well, they have the Defensive Player of the Year and they have the Comeback Player of the Year, then what is Kevin Stefanski doing? Like, what is he? I know he navigated quarterback issues, and I guess he brought in Joe Flacco and orchestrated an offense around him very quickly where they could have success. I'm not saying Stefanski did a poor job of coaching, but we had, relatively higher expectations, I'd say, for the Browns this season than the Texans or maybe even the Lions. Lions had some high expectations, but like Detroit didn't have any winners at NFL honors. They had some good rookies that could have been choices, but couldn't compete with CJ Stroud. It didn't have an MVP candidate, didn't have an really elite defensive player. So I think that should play a role and elevate a candidate like Dan Campbell,
well, that's the thing. There isn't a single player you can point to on the Lions and say they won because of that guy. And it's a matter of that the coach kept this team together. The coach kept them all focused in the right direction the entire season. And that's why Dan Campbell should have been a stronger consideration for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm with you on that one.
I did love seeing Cameron Hayward win Walter Payton Man of the Year. Of course, an award you hold dear to your heart, being in Chicago. Yeah. And I think the NFL, I'll say, they've done a terrific job of publicizing this award over the last decade, I would say. Before that, maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but I just did not realize this award was so old. And it wasn't always called Walter Payton Man of the Year, of course, but this award goes back to the 70s, I think. Yeah. Maybe even before that. And then was renamed Walter Payton, I think, in the late 90s, early 2000s. And but even in the 2000s, like I did not really hear much about the winners or the nominees or anything about this award. But I think the NFL has done terrific work at publicizing every nominee, publicizing every winner with the patch on their jerseys for the rest of their career. And I think it's terrific that the Steelers have a winner of this terrific award. So it was awesome to see Cameron Hayward up on stage winning that. Yeah,
I agree. And it's an award that's close to my heart. And it's an award that the NFL has done a great job of making it a very prestigious award.
Yeah.
For a player to win, and a player is very honored to win that award. And it really does mean a lot. And I think it means a lot to the player. I think it's a great compliment to the player who wins that award. And, because again, not only what they do on the field, but what they do off the field. And really is. I think there's a lot to it, and yeah, I congratulate Cam Hayward on winning it.
We only got 15 minutes left in the show. We wanted to have a discussion about which players for the Falcons could be on their next Super Bowl roster, or which players you think are cornerstones for the team, going forward and trying to get back to a Super Bowl and getting back at a level where the Chiefs and 49ers are. Let's go with that first, Tom, and then we'll hopefully also get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame class. You kick us off.
Well, I want to know, fans, and this is always, and we're going to be talking about this a lot in the offseason, about a lot of the ifs. If this guy plays, if this guy can do that, if we can get a player like this, how many ifs do the Falcons have covered? How many players do you think on the Falcons right now who can actually be rostered on either of these two Super Bowl teams? Who can make an impact, not just make an impact, but be rostered? How many Super Bowl quality, playoff quality players are on this team right now, and what do they still need? And that's kind of what I wanted to get into, because to me, that's always the measuring stick for how close the team is. And overall, I don't think this Falcons team is far away, but they are far away in two key areas. And I'll let you have a guess at that, Dave.
Two
key areas do you? Yeah.
Quarterback.
Yeah, you got that right.
Yeah.
No quarterback. Even an average quarterback, because an average quarterback can get you there if you've got a good offense placed around him, and if you've got a defense that's playing at a good level. We've seen average quarterbacks win Super Bowls. But I don't think the Falcons even have that right now. And something I think is even more important is edge rusher.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no Bosa on this team. There's no Karlaftis on this team. Your best pass rusher for the season, the most sacks, is going to be 38 next year. And Arnold Ebiketie has not developed the way we have or wanted to see him develop. And this team is really lacking on edge rusher. They got nobody. They have the interior rush with Grady Jarrett and Onyemata. But there is nobody on this team that I would take and say, I would say Arnold Ebiketie does not play on the 49ers or the Kansas City Chiefs. And if he is, he's at the bottom of the roster.
Yeah, I and that's why I've said in the past that I don't think the Falcons are as close to competing as I think you think, because these are every team has holes on their roster. That's the way the NFL works with the salary cap and the parity that we see around the league. But you can't have holes at quarterback and the most important spot on defense, in my opinion, and expect to compete for a Super Bowl.
Right.
So I don't think this team is that close. The advantage that they have is they're in a weak division. So they have a way of, if they can get things figured out, if they can get to 9-10 wins, they should be able to host a home playoff game. And that could make you the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Even though the Buccaneers were the 4 seed and they played the best wild card team, they won that game, and they gave the Lions a run for their money in the division round. So you can go on a run after hosting a home playoff game. So that is the one advantage that they have. to getting to a Super Bowl right now.
Right now,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna end by saying that I don't want to say easy. I was trying to think of a different word, but the easier path to a home playoff game sets you up for
Sets you up for a
a run.
playoff.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking at basically a unit by unit breakdown because I think the Falcons' running game is good enough to be is playoff caliber. I think the Falcons' running game, if Zach Robinson uses Bijan right next year, is a playoff contender, is a Super Bowl contending running game. Now, I think they fall short at wide receiver because I think you only have Drake London and Kyle Pitts if he comes back and makes a better show of himself next year. And I think he will. But I still think their passing game falls short, not because of the quarterback, because I think they still need another receiver on that lineup. But you look at Kansas City, and they got fortunate that Rashee Rice really made something out of that offense as the year has gone on. But I would say Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice are basically the only two reliable receivers on the Kansas City Chiefs right now. They're leaving Kadarius Toney. He's not going to play. Fortunately, the farther Kadarius Toney is from the Chiefs' offense, the better. If it were me, I would say tell Kadarius Toney to drive his car to the game and buy a ticket, and you're better off.
If you have a great pass catching tight end and a running back you like to throw to, you can get by with that wide receiver core. And the Falcons have that, or should have that. They have the pass catching tight end in Kyle Pitts, should be one of the best in the league. And they have Bijan Robinson now coming off the rookie season. So you don't need a dominant wide receiver core when you got those two guys who should have, 75 targets, quite frankly, each. And Pitts should have more than 100. So you throw in Drake London, and I think if you find a deep shot wide receiver as your number two, I think
Van Jefferson is not it.
I think the wide receiver.
Nobody fears Van Jefferson going downfield,
which is supposed to be a strength, but
nobody fears him. He's got the speed to take the top off the defense. He does not have the talent to draw two defenders downfield.
I think we will see. There's got to be a free agent signing there, but I think we will see better production from wide receivers without Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith wanted to throw to two tight ends.
Yes.
And kept throwing to.
And the problem is it was the wrong tight end.
Right. So Smith really doesn't do a lot to involve a second receiver. And I think the narrative that he doesn't throw to his number one receiver is a little bit overblown. Actually, I think, Drake London was pretty involved, and A.J. Brown was very involved in his offense in Tennessee. But a guy like Mac Hollins, Mac Hollins had no opportunity to shine in the offense last year. But so I think with Zach Robinson, that might not be the case, even with Pitts and Bijan getting a lot of targets too.
Yeah. Do you think Cordero Patterson can still be the Swiss Army knife on this team, much like Deebo Samuel is for the 49ers?
That's a good question, because he's getting up there in age. Yes. I don't know. That's a good question. He didn't whether it was opportunity or his skills, he did not prove to be the Joker that we all were hoping he would be in 2023. So Yeah, I don't think you really can replace that because he was so unique in like 2021, him being able to do all kinds of different things. There isn't another guy in free agency that can do all of that, but I
They're
think you
not
can
easy to
find,
find. Right.
but you
Not
can,
every team has one.
right. But I still think that they can have a productive offense without a player like Cordell Patterson, though, because they have other pieces that should mesh very well if they can, figure out quarterback.
But it does really enhance your offense if you do have that Swiss Army knife back there. Kind of like a Deebo Samuel, a guy who can do everything. A guy when he's on the field, and this is what I said about Cordero Patterson before the season, a guy that's on the field that you have to account for when you see his number lining up opposite you. And that's what I was hoping Patterson would be for the Falcons this year. Is what Deebo Samuel is for the 49ers. I don't know if I wouldn't say the Chiefs actually have one of those.
I don't think you need it, to be honest. It's a luxury. It's a luxury that is great to have, but we saw the Falcons had that with Cordell Patterson, but that didn't take them to the playoffs 3 years ago now in 2021. So,
but they didn't have the same kind of team. They had a team that they built. You remember they were in salary cap hell, though.
Right. Yes, that's true. Back then they were. Yeah. I mean, think about where they would have been without Cordero Patterson. I guess that is a scary thought, but I guess I still just think that's a luxury that you don't have to win a Super Bowl. Quarterback and edge rusher, though, you got to have that to be a real contender. You really do. And and they don't. They really don't have that. But I think the positive, though, if I can end on a positive note here, you were talking about the offense. I do think also on defense there are some pieces there, and Jesse Bates is really the guy that I would point to as all pro level guy that does a lot of different things in run defense and pass defense that was a big reason why that defense was a lot better in 2023. And Calais Campbell was a reason why too. You're not as optimistic about him because of his age. You can be optimistic about Jesse Bates because he's still under 30 years old. So that is a piece that you can build around, and you need to find playmakers now at the other two levels. I mean, Grady Jarrett is getting up there a little bit in age. You need a guy to pair with him. And I think Nate Landman played very well at linebacker, but another, legitimate linebacker, somebody maybe like Nate Landman, would go a long way as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think they do need a linebacker. That's why it frustrates me every time I watch Jacksonville, because we see Luakan just all over the field making plays.
Right.
And the Falcons let him get away.
Yeah.
And the guy makes tackles. He's all over the field.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because I thought Luakan could have been that off linebacker that just, somebody whose number is always on your television screen.
Right.
Maybe he didn't make the play, but he was in the area of the play. And most likely he did make the play. And I love players like that. But I think Caden Ellis is a quality guy, and I think he could be on a Falcon Super Bowl team.
Yep.
AJ Terrell and D. Alford, I think, are quality cornerbacks. And I think the Falcons with Alford and Okudah, I think Okudah played strong, and AJ Terrell make up a very quality secondary group that I believe you can win with. And I think the Falcons are strong there. And I think that those corners get a lot better if you've got an edge rusher putting a clock on the quarterback.
Right. Yes. Yes. I absolutely agree. Falcons seem to kind of be doing the opposite, and they're not the only team that does this, where they draft cornerbacks to help their edge rushers. I think it should be the other way around. You should draft
the other way around
to help your cornerbacks. But
yes.
We will have further positional breakdowns as we get into draft season. We're hoping to have, planning to have a special guest next week, and we'll ask her about who the Falcons could be targeting in the NFL draft. And I'm sure she will have comments about all these players we're talking about as well. But we're running real short on time, Tom, and we want to briefly hit upon the 2024 Pro Football Hall of Fame class, which will include 2 former Falcons players. Dwight Freeney and Devin Hester played the ends of their careers with the Falcons. The class will also include wide receiver Andre Johnson, defensive end Julius Peppers, linebacker Patrick Willis, and then 2 senior nominees, Randy Gradishar and Steve McMichael.
Yes. So we have actually 3 Chicago Bears because Julius Peppers played 4 seasons for the Bears at defensive end, was a fantastic pass rusher. I have no problem with the people who made the Hall of Fame. I think they're all worthy. I did not think Freeney was ready to go in yet because I thought Antonio Gates just amazes me. And that's the one snub that I just don't get, and I don't think a lot of people get. He's one of the best tight ends. He's not a Tony Gonzalez, but he was one of the best tight ends in NFL history. And he did not get in on first ballot. And that shocked the hell out of me. So that was one very big surprise. Another very big surprise, and it's a Patrick Willis I thought could have been voted in 5 minutes after he retired. He was that
right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think Patrick Willis, I put him among the greatest inside linebackers in NFL history. And yeah, that's putting him in with Dick Butkus, Ray Nitschke, Schmidt from Detroit, and you know, anybody else you want to, a Sam Huff, anybody else you want to mention, Patrick Willis goes in that level. All right. One of the best in NFL history. I also thought Jari Evans was going to get more consideration in his first year as a guard. One of the best guards to ever play the game. I think Jari Evans will go in. But, you know, I don't have a problem with Andre Johnson going in. I think he's a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver. I was disappointed that Torrey Holt is still waiting.
Yeah.
Because I think Torrey Holt was the best receiver in the class. And I have thought Torrey Holt was the best receiver in the class for about 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
He hasn't gone in. So Steve McMichael from the senior committee. Steve McMichael, if you don't know, has ALS and is very close to death. And I think the only thing keeping him hanging on was this Hall of Fame vote. And he did get voted in. He was a very underrated but very important part of those Bears defenses in the 1980s. He kind of allowed Richard Dent and Dan Hampton to do a lot of damage off the sides because he was so hard to move in the middle and, you know, kept the pockets solid, kept the quarterback from moving up in the pocket. So McMichael, I was happy to see just as a Bears fan, you know.
Yeah.
And the fact that if you see McMichael in his heyday and McMichael now, you'd be shocked at the difference. But overall, I think coming up as far as Hall of Fame classes, I would like to see Eric Allen. It took him 18 years of eligibility to finally make a finalist list. Cornerback, played for the Eagles, Saints, Raiders. He is a Hall of Fame cornerback. And it should not have taken him 18 years to make it as a finalist. I would like to see him go in the future. I would like to see Holt go in. I think Jared Allen is a quality defensive end. I'm happy to see Devin Hester get in because Devin Hester was a game changer at what he did. And he was the best of his era at what he did, and as a kick and punt returner. And to me, being in the best of your era is one of the things I look for in Hall of Fame class. So yeah, everybody who got in this year, I think deserved to be in. I did not think Freeney was going to get in this year, but I think he deserves getting in. I had Freeney as Hall of Fame caliber that eventually he would go in. So he went in this year. I'm also surprised. I don't want to hear what you have to think about this. I know we're over time, Dave. And I'm sorry about that. Art Powell played his entire productive career in the AFL, American Football League, in the 60s for the New York Titans and Oakland Raiders. He was one of the best receivers in the AFL and did not get, was nominated by the senior committee, did not make the up or down vote into the Hall of Fame. And I was very surprised at that. Do you think that the selection committee takes AFL numbers seriously as a qualification for the Hall of Fame?
You put me on the spot a little bit. I'd have to do a little bit more research into it, but I think they should. I think they should take it seriously. I think you setting up the question makes me feel like they probably don't, though.
Well, my issue is a couple of years ago, Sam Mills, linebacker for the Panthers, made it to the Hall of Fame, but but he was an average NFL player, but everybody was high on the work he did in the USFL. And because he was a defensive player of the year in the USFL, and people seem to think, well, it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and the USFL was pro football, so Sam Mills was deserving. I say no. I mean, so just because if a player has an average Major League Baseball career but tore things up in AAA, just because it's the Baseball Hall of Fame does not mean I'm putting that player in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Right.
Then the USFL was not a top flight league.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so are you making an argument against the AFL, though?
No, I'm making a positive for it because the AFL actually had quality players.
Okay. Yeah.
It took the AFL some time to develop as a league and to develop to be as good as the NFL. But you could say that the last couple of years of the AFL before the merger were every bit as good as the NFL. A lot of those AFL teams competed after the merger against NFL teams.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm saying that I think Art Powell got jobbed.
Will he have another chance at it, or is that it?
I think he will continue to be discussed by the senior committee. And it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I would like to think that he will get another look because I think based on his production as an AFL player, he was a quality player. With the Titans, he was a comparative player to Don Maynard. Maynard's in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
So, I think it was a little bit of a travesty that Powell, and normally every senior committee nominee normally gets in. Powell's the first one, I think, in over a decade that hasn't gotten in as a senior committee nominee. So that surprised me.
Yeah, normally those guys are pretty solid yeses.
Yes.
So yeah,
the last one who didn't go in was Claude Humphrey, and about 5 or 6 years later, Humphrey did get in.
So maybe Mills will too.
Yeah. So you mean Powell? Yeah.
Powell. Sorry.
So, but I'm saying you can't take USFL numbers seriously and not take AFL numbers seriously.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's
because the AFL was actually a quality football league.
Do we know for sure? Have voters? But this is the problem with NFL honors. Like, we don't hear from the voters themselves. We hear from people on Twitter as reasons we think people got in or didn't get in. People on Twitter, I'm assuming, are the ones that you're referencing, that the USFL numbers, but we don't know for sure if that's actually the reason why.
It was on all the articles I read too. It wasn't just Twitter.
Okay.
I read a couple of articles on NFL.com where a couple of those NFL experts said, yeah, it's a Pro Football Hall of Fame, and the USFL was a Pro Football League. Sam Mills played outstanding in the USFL, so he should make the Hall of Fame. That was the argument.
Well, have you seen any arguments that say, well, AFL is not deserving?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I'm speculating there. But
gotcha. Yeah.
I can't think of any other reason why he wouldn't get in.
Yeah.
Because if you look at his numbers compared to other wide receivers, look at his numbers compared to other wide receivers in the AFL. He was a perennial leader in reception yards and reception touchdowns in the AFL. So what do you got against this guy? And I was surprised by that one. So, and I know Antonio Gates will get in. I'm beginning to wonder about Torrey Holt, but Torrey Holt should be in. Isaac Bruce, his teammate, is in the Hall of Fame, and Torrey Holt was a better receiver than Isaac Bruce. So I don't see why Torrey Holt isn't in. But that's all I have to say. I know we're running way over time, and I don't want to, I think I've made my points.
Well, it was appropriate to run over with the Super Bowl episode. Thank you for everyone who stuck around for the hour plus with us. We love making you a part of our Saturday. Thank you for making us a part of yours. Enjoy the Super Bowl, everyone. Follow us on Twitter.
Todd's last comment said, does Matt Ryan get in? And Matt thinks so. And Todd, I do think Matt Ryan should get in. Matt is, I don't know if he gets in first ballot, but I think Matt Ryan does go in. And Todd, we're all good. So no problem. I know I was a little critical of you earlier, but yeah, I think Matt does. So everybody, yeah, I same as Dave, I wish you all a wonderful weekend. Let's have a lot of fun watching the Super Bowl and a lot of fun watching the commercials, see what kind of commercials come up, because that's always been a part of the Super Bowl broadcast. And appreciate you spending all this time today with us on a Saturday. And we will talk to you soon. Everybody have a great week.